Authority of the Spiritist Doctrine. Universal control of the teaching of spirits. If the Spiritist doctrine were of a purely human conception, it would only offer as a pledge the insights of the one who had conceived it. Now, no one in this world could reasonably claim to possess, exclusively, the absolute truth. If the spirits who revealed it had manifested themselves to just one man, nothing would guarantee their origin, as it would have been necessary to believe, on word, the one who said he had received the teaching from them. Granted, on his part, perfect sincerity, at best he could convince people of his relationships, he would get sectarians, but he would never bring together everyone. God wanted the new revelation to reach men in a faster and more authentic way. He therefore instructed the spirits to take it from one pole to another, manifesting themselves everywhere, without giving anyone the privilege of hearing their word. A man can be deceived, he can deceive himself. It will no longer be like this, when millions of creatures see and hear the same thing. This constitutes a guarantee for each and everyone. Furthermore, a man can be made to disappear, but you cannot make collectivities disappear. Books can be burned, but spirits cannot be burned. Now, if all the books were burned and the source of doctrine would remain inexhaustible, for the very reason that it is not on earth, that it appears everywhere and that everyone can drink from it. There is a lack of men to spread it. There will always be spirits, whose actions affect everyone and whom no one can reach. It is, therefore, the spirits themselves who carry out the propagation, with the help of countless mediums that they, the spirits, also raise from all sides. If there had been just one interpreter, no matter how favored he was, Spiritism would barely be known. Whatever class he belonged to, such an interpreter had been the object of many people's warnings, and not all nations would have accepted him, while spirits communicate in all parts of the earth, to all peoples, to all sects, to all parties, and everyone accepts them. Spiritism has no nationality and is not part of any existing cult. No social class imposes it, since anyone can receive instructions from their relatives and friends from beyond the grave. It must be so that he can lead all men to fraternity. If it did not remain on neutral ground, it would fuel dissension rather than appease it. In this universality of the teaching of spirits lies the strength of Spiritism and also the cause of its rapid spread. While the word of one man, even with the assistance of the press, would take centuries to reach everyone's knowledge, thousands of voices are heard simultaneously in every corner of the planet, proclaiming the same principles and transmitting them to the most ignorant as to the most learned, so that there are no disinherited. It is an advantage that none of the doctrines that have emerged to date have yet enjoyed. If Spiritism, therefore, is a truth, it does not fear the ill will of men, nor moral revolutions, nor physical subversions of the globe, because none of these can affect spirits. This, however, is not the only advantage that derives from its exceptional position. It provides you with an unassailable guarantee against all schisms that could arise, whether from the ambition of some or from the contradictions of certain spirits. Such contradictions, there is no denying it, are a hardship, but which brings with it the remedy, alongside the evil. It is known that spirits, due to the difference between their abilities, are far from being, individually considered, in possession of all the truth, that not everyone is able to penetrate certain mysteries, that the knowledge of each of them is proportional to their purification, that vulgar spirits do not know more than many men, that among them, as among these, there are presumptuous and sophomaniacs, who think they know what they do not know, systematic, who take their ideas as truth, finally, that only the spirits of the highest category, those who are already completely dematerialized, are stripped of earthly ideas and prejudices. However, it is also known that deceiving spirits do not scruple in taking names that do not belong to them to impose their utopias. It follows that, in relation to everything that is outside the scope of exclusively moral teaching, the revelations that each person may receive will have an individual character, without the stamp of authenticity. That personal opinions of this or that spirit should be considered, and that it would be unwise to accept and propagate them lightly as absolute truths. The first evidentiary examination is, therefore, without contradiction, that of reason, to which everything that comes from the spirits must be submitted, without exception. Any theory that is in clear contradiction with common sense, with rigorous logic, and with the positive data already acquired must be rejected, no matter how respectable the name it bears as a signature. However, this examination will be incomplete in many cases due to the lack of enlightenment of certain people and the tendency of many to take their own opinions as sole judges of the truth. So, what should those who do not have absolute confidence in themselves do? Seek the opinion of the majority and take their opinion as a guide. This is how we must proceed in light of what the spirits say, who are the first to provide us with the means of achieving this. Agreement in what the spirits teach is, therefore, the best proof. It is important, however, that it occurs under certain conditions. The weakest of all occurs when a medium, alone, interrogates many spirits about a doubtful point. It is evident that, if he is under the control of an obsession or dealing with a mystifying spirit, this can tell him the same thing under different names. Nor will there be any sufficient guarantee in the conformity presented by what can be obtained by different mediums in the same center, because they can all be under the same influence. There is only one serious guarantee for the teaching of spirits, the agreement that exists between the revelations that they make spontaneously, using a large number of mediums that are foreign to each other and in various places. It is clear that this is not about communications relating to secondary interests, but about the very principles of the doctrine. Experience proves that, when a new principle has to be enunciated, this happens spontaneously at different points at the same time and in the same way, if not in terms of form, then in terms of background. If, therefore, it pleases a spirit to formulate an eccentric system, based solely on his ideas and to the exclusion of the truth, one can be sure that such a system will remain circumscribed and will fall in the face of the instructions given from all parts, according to the multiple examples that are already known. It was this unanimity that put to rest all the partial systems that emerged at the origin of Spiritism, when each one explained the phenomena in their own way, and before the laws that govern the relations between the visible world and the invisible world were known. This is the basis on which we rely when we formulate a principle of doctrine. It is not because it agrees with our ideas that we consider it to be true. We absolutely do not hold ourselves up as the supreme arbiter of truth, and we say to no one, "Believe in this thing," because we are the ones who tell you. Our opinion is nothing more than, in our own eyes, a personal opinion, which can be true or false, as we do not consider ourselves more infallible than anyone else. It is also not because a principle has been taught to us that, for us, it expresses the truth, but because it has received the sanction of agreement. In the position in which we find ourselves, receiving communications from nearly 1,000 serious Spiritist centers spread across the most diverse parts of the earth, we find ourselves in a position to observe on what principle agreement is established. This observation is what has guided us until today and is what will guide us in new fields that Spiritism will have to explore. Because, carefully studying the communications coming from both France and abroad, we recognize, due to the very special nature of the revelations, that he tends to enter a new path and that the time has come for him to make a decision, a move forward. These revelations, often made in veiled words, have often gone unnoticed by many of those who obtained them. Others thought they were the only ones to have them. Taken in isolation, they would have no value for us, only coincidence gives them gravity. Then, when the time comes for them to be handed over to advertising, each one will remember having received instructions in the same direction. This general movement, which we observe and study, with the assistance of our spiritual guides, is what helps us judge whether or not we should do something. This universal verification constitutes a guarantee for the future unity of Spiritism and will nullify all contradictory theories. That is where, in the future, the criterion of truth will be found. What gave rise to the success of the doctrine set out in the Spirit's book and the Medium's book was that everywhere everyone received confirmation directly from the spirits of what these books contain. If spirits had come from all sides to contradict it, those works would have experienced the fate of all fantastic conceptions long ago. Not even the support of the press would save them from sinking, while, deprived of this support, they did not stop opening the way and advancing quickly. And they had that of the spirits, whose good will not only compensated, but also overcame the ill will of men. This will happen to all ideas that, whether emanating from spirits or from men, cannot withstand the test of this confrontation, the strength of which no one is permitted to dispute. Let us suppose it pleases some spirits to dictate, under any title, a book to the contrary. Let us even suppose that, with hostile intent, aiming to discredit the doctrine, malevolence provoked apocryphal communications. What influence could such writings exert, as long as the spirits denied them from all sides? It is with their adhesion that anyone who wants to launch, in their name, any system must be guaranteed. From the system of one to that of all, it measures the distance that goes from unity to infinity. What can the arguments of detractors achieve regarding the opinion of the masses when millions of friendly voices, coming from space, are heard in every corner of the universe and within families, refuting them? In this respect, has not the theory already been confirmed by experience? What happened to the countless publications that claimed to destroy Spiritism? Which one even slowed him down? Until now, the issue has not been considered from this point of view. Without dispute, it is one of the most serious. Each one counted on themselves, without counting on the spirits. The principle of agreement is also a guarantee against changes that could subject Spiritism to sects that propose to take over it for their own benefit and accommodate it at will. Whoever tried to divert it from its providential objective would be unsuccessful, for the very simple reason that the spirits, due to the universality of their teachings, will destroy any modification that is divorced from the truth. From all this, a capital truth emerges, that whoever wanted to oppose the established and sanctioned current of ideas could, of course, cause a small local and momentary disturbance, never, however, dominate the whole, even in the present, nor, even less, in the future. It also emphasizes that the instructions given by the spirits on points not yet elucidated in the doctrine will not constitute law, as long as these instructions remain isolated, that they should therefore only be accepted with all reservations and by way of clarification. Hence the need for greater prudence in publicizing them, and, if it is considered appropriate to publish them, it is important not to present them other than as individual opinions, more or less probable, however, always requiring confirmation. This confirmation is what one needs to wait for before presenting a principle as absolute truth, unless one wants to be accused of levity or unreflective credulity. Superior spirits proceed with extreme wisdom in their revelations. They only attack the great questions of the doctrine only gradually, as the intelligence proves capable of understanding truth of a higher order and when circumstances reveal themselves to be conducive to the issuance of a new idea. That's why they didn't say everything from the beginning, and they still haven't said everything today, never giving in to the impatience of the very hasty, who want the fruits before they are ripe. It would, therefore, be superfluous to try to anticipate the time that Providence signed for each thing, because then the truly serious spirits would deny their assistance. The frivolous spirits, caring little about the truth, respond to everything, hence it comes that, about all premature questions, there are always contradictory answers. The principles above do not result from a personal theory, they are a forced consequence of the conditions in which the spirits manifest themselves. It is evident that, if a spirit says one thing on one side, while millions of others say the opposite elsewhere, the presumption of truth cannot be with the one who is the only one or almost the only one with such an opinion. Now, claiming that someone is right against everyone would be as illogical on the part of spirits as it is on the part of men. Truly thoughtful spirits, if they do not feel sufficiently clear about an issue, they never resolve it absolutely. They declare that they only deal with it from their point of view and advise that confirmation be awaited. No matter how great, beautiful, and fair an idea may be, it is impossible for it to bring together all opinions from the outset. The conflicts that arise from this are an inevitable consequence of the movement that takes place. They are indeed necessary for greater emphasis on the truth and should be produced right away, so that false ideas are promptly put aside. Spiritists who harbor any fear in this regard can remain perfectly calm. All insulated pretensions will fall, by the very force of things, before the enormous and powerful criterion of universal agreement. It will not be with the opinion of one man that others will align themselves, but with the unanimous voice of the spirits. It will not be a man, nor us, nor anyone else who will found the Spiritist orthodoxy. Nor will it be a spirit that comes to impose itself on anyone. It will be the universality of spirits that communicate throughout the earth, by order of God. This is the essential character of the Spiritist doctrine. This is your strength, your authority. God wanted His law to rest on an immovable foundation, and that is why He did not give it the fragile head of a single person as its foundation. In the face of such a powerful Areopagus, where there are no known rails, no jealous rivalries, no sects, no nations, all oppositions, all ambitions, all pretensions to individual supremacy will be shattered, is that we would break ourselves if we wanted to replace His sovereign decrees with our own ideas. Only He will decide all contentious issues, impose silence on dissent, and give reason to those who are right. In the face of this imposing agreement of all the voices in heaven, what can the opinion of a man or a spirit do? Less than the drop of water that is lost in the ocean, less than the voice of the child that the storm drowns out. Universal opinion, this is the supreme judge, the one who pronounces in the last instance. All individual opinions form it. If one of these is true, it only has its relative weight on the scale. If it is false, it cannot prevail over all others. In this immense contest, individualities are erased, which constitutes a new failure for human pride. The harmonious set is already being designed. This century will not pass without it shining in all its brilliance, in order to dispel all uncertainties, because from here until then, powerful voices will have received the mission of making themselves heard, to bring men together under the same flag, since the field is sufficiently plowed. While this does not happen, anyone who fluctuates between two opposing systems can observe in which direction the general opinion is formed. This will be the right indication of the meaning in which the majority of spirits speak at the different points where they communicate, and a no less certain sign of which of the two systems will prevail. Allan Kardec. From the work, The Gospel According to Spiritism. 112 edition. February 1996. The study of Allan Kardec's work is fundamental for the correct knowledge of the Spiritist doctrine.